Fantasy Baseball today brought to you by Captain Morgan. Oh, you're dancing over there.
ready-
Lauren
ready
Shehadi,
to
Eric
go.
Mack, Orestes Destrade. Of all of the sports stories you talked about last week, Armando Galarraga. I can't even watch it because I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the ump. Should Bud Selig have ruled it a perfect game?
No. I mean, the rules are the rules, and then they don't have anything to address that. So if you don't have it to address it, it's hard to speed it up. I thought it was great, really. I thought it was ended up being a scary, ugly, turn your head story. I can't believe he made that call by Jim Joyce, a guy that I know, and he's a solid umpire. And a wonderful kid that how many times he probably will never, let's be honest, the chance of having another perfect game. He may have a no-hitter, but a perfect game because you need your teammates, you need everybody to be in unison there, no walks. Nevertheless, what a turnaround feel-good story. And I'm going to say one more thing about it. I like what the governor did because that you can have fun with it and say we're honoring and we're saying that he had a perfect game. Fine. Well, one last thing I would do, and I haven't seen yet, is a scorecard where they take away the last few pitches, they take away the last batter, and they just have it straight out 0, and the guy grounding out first base 1 to 3. Wouldn't that be cool to he be commemorated with that score? Maybe they could have put it in the glove box of that Corvette that he was getting.
Right?
Yeah,
Not
he
bad
came out-
gift.
Real tough. Yeah.
He came out all right. He got a Corvette out of the deal,
And
and
what class.
he got more people talking about his perfect game than the people that were talking about
class.
Dallas Braden's perfect game or Roy Halladay's perfect game. He's going to be remembered 20 years from now.
Good point.
Far more than those other 2 perfect games. And what you do with Galarraga, you probably have to start him because there is no better outing you can have going into a 2-start week, and his matchups are pretty good. I think Galarraga is a guy you can pick up. He's still available in over 60% of CBSSports.com leagues. It's a guy that can be a nice sleeper for you. I don't really trust him, but might as well take a shot on him.
But you look at the aftermath of a guy like Braden, and you're thinking, I'm a little bit worried to start him, right?
Yeah, well, Dallas Braden hasn't won since his perfect game. Jimenez and Halladay, throw those 2 guys out. They're must-starts in all leagues. They are superstar aces. But Galarraga's closer to Dallas Braden. In fact, Galarraga's a cut below Dallas Braden in terms of talent. So I think in fantasy, you have to expect some market correction. You guys liked that word last week.
Yes,
that
I love
term
it.
last week.
Let's put the talent in the right hand.
Galarraga, though, is a guy you can use, but you might not be able to trust in mixed leagues.
All right,
And
so
and by the way, throw in Mark Burley in that debacle of after a perfect
Aftermath,
game,
right.
how bad he did, and that's a really we're not saying Halladay type pitcher, but he's a very good pitcher.
all right, but you say he's not a sure thing, which leads us into our 2-start pitchers. Who else is risky, Mac?
Well, Scott Kazmir, I know he's had some struggles, and we really can't get the best of Scott Kazmir, the one that we saw years ago. These matchups, though, I might take a chance on him in a deeper league. Some of these other guys, you question marks. Gavin Floyd has been terrible. His ERA is well over 6, almost close to 7. Jeff Francis had those good 2 starts out of the gate, and then he's been correcting back to a low-end fringe mixed league guy. Feldman coming off his 17-win season, even in those matchups, not good enough to start. And Tim Wakefield has been getting hammered, and he's got Philly at the end of his schedule. I know he shut down Philly the last time he pitched against them, but they were struggling then.
By the way, 2 teams lost in Scott Kazmir. All right, I'm going to go back to your old team. That would be the Mets lost with Scott Kazmir because they gave him up for Victor Zambrano when they should have kept him.
Right.
And then the Angels are going to lose with Scott Kazmir because I believe he's on the downslide and a questionable arm right now. The team that won is the Rays in the middle.
They kept him just long enough.
Kept them long enough and got the most out of him in those quality years.
I'm not giving up on him, though. I think Mike Scioscia does amazing things with everyone on his team. I still think there's value there. And the Angels, for some reason, they lose Kendra Morales, and they've gotten hot. I think Kazmir can be a winner for the Angels, and I think he can be a winner for your fantasy team. So stick with him. Just don't start him this week.
All right, we'll see what happens. From risky to okay to start, a couple of veterans on this list, Mac.
Yeah, let's go with the vets like Zach Greinke. You got to run them out there. They reshuffled their rotation so Greinke can start twice this week. Daisuke Matsuzaka, he's had some moments after his slow start last week. He came on and pitched very well, and he's got that Cleveland matchup. I think you can go with these guys. They've had their struggles. Edwin Jackson, Ben Sheets, those guys have struggled, but I think in these matchups they're good to go. And then those guys at the bottom of the list, Clayton Richard, very underrated fantasy pitcher. His ERA is under 3. And the lefty, he's got pitcher's parks to work in this week. And then Chris Medlin, another guy with the Braves, a little bit under the radar. He was the guy that started in the rotation before Tommy Hanson made his arrival last year, and then he got shuffled to the bullpen. Well, he's back in the rotation now. I think he's there to stay.
Let me ask you, who's more frustrating, Mac, as a fantasy owner with two pitchers, Daisuke Matsuzaka or Aaron Harang, who both can be, they can throw a four-hitter, and then they can throw, a terrible game.
You expect and hope for more with Daisuke, and then he'll frustrate the heck out of you by being afraid to throw strikes. I don't know really what it's about. He should just throw it over the plate and let him hit it. He's got good stuff. He just doesn't trust it all the time.
And talk about frustrated and frustrating. I'm even frustrated saying it. Tim Lincecum, a lot of talk about him in our pre-production meeting. Talked about blisters last week, not getting much run support. No. Oh, he must be frustrated.
Well,
we're frustrated.
He's not getting much run support, but he's not pitching well. So I'm not real sure what's going on, and it has to be the blisters. This guy, is too sensationally good, and what he's done consistently, because that's what you look for. I mean, you can have those breakout seasons, and the jury still is out on you until you have a second good season or great season and a third. That's what this guy has done. So I think the blisters are in effect, and not only the blisters are affecting, they're affecting two things. His quality of control, 25 walks, 25 strikeouts. This guy's a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio guy, at least 2.5 to 1. And then the other thing is velocity. I mean, so that's what a blister affects you. You can't get the feel for the ball to snap it or control a slider or a curveball or fastball. And then obviously you're throwing 5-7 miles an hour less.
Yeah. It's surprising to me he's more of a low 90s guy right now than the mid 90s where we saw him being a dominant pitcher. I still think, though, you got to run him out there. You got to start him. He's your guy. He's your horse. I think he'll be fine. All
right, a lot of eyeballs on Lincecum as well as Dontrelle Willis. A good start in Arizona. Wow. Is he better in the NL? Oh.
I think anybody's better in the NL has been proven the last few years, but this guy was having problems way beyond the NL and AL mystique, because obviously we saw the last year and a half with the Marlins, he struggled then, definitely struggled with the Tigers, but I'm very happy for him. He's a good human being. He's a good guy. In the last couple of years, really has been struggling with some issues off the field, and I think he's corralled them. He just hadn't come back to that stature. Goes to the NL, gets a new start, and I tell you, and I think that Arizona has been kind of, you talk about people retiring over there and the weather and the stuff, because we've seen some other pitchers go over there and kind of restart their careers. So maybe this is a good thing for the kid, and I hope so, because I hate to see him leave the baseball completely with that type of a sour taste in his mouth.
So, Emac, is he a real deal fantasy option?
Well, he was decent out of the gate for the Tigers, so there is some value there. One thing I'm looking with Dontrelle, back in the National League, he's a tremendous hitter and a tremendous athlete. He hits grand slams at the plate. He's also a very emotional guy. So when things were going wrong in Detroit, he really just let it go and affect him. I think with his being a hitter the way he was, you even saw him slide headfirst in the home plate with the D-backs. I think hitting is going to ignite him. I think he's an emotional guy who has a lot of heart. I think this energy is going to revive him as a pitcher. I think in NL-only leagues, you can absolutely pick him up and use them. Maybe not mixed leagues right away, but I think with this being able to hit, he's going to feel a part of the game. He's going to be lifted back to where he was with the Marlins. Not a 20-game winner, not a Cy Young winner, but some energy.
I spot start him, and another big thing also, remember, he has been away from the National League for a little bit, and there's been a big turnaround of young hitters in the National League. There's a lot of new faces that have never faced that funky windup and that whole delivery deal. So, he might be an interesting guy as a left-handed pitcher right now that you might want to start.
And his legs are a lot healthier, and that was a big thing with his high leg kick. His balance was off. It's a little better now.
That he's dropped, definitely the weight was an issue.
A little optimism I'm sensing. I'm also sensing it is time for buy, sell. Freddy Garcia is up first on a roll, Emac.
Yeah, right now I think you can absolutely buy Freddy Garcia and start him in Fantasy Week 10. This is a guy that's not a good pitcher. He's a back-end starter, and the White Sox haven't gotten it going offensively. But right now he's going so well, I think you can use Freddy Garcia in mixed leagues as a stopgap.
What about two elite pitching talents? I'm going to start with Brian Mattis. That would beat up.
Yeah, the Orioles are just, they lost their manager last week. They're just struggling right now. Madison Tillman, these are two elite talents. Tillman's more of a power arm. Mattis is more of a poise and finesse and command pitcher. Both these guys are going to be good fantasy options in the second half. They are hitting their rookie struggles right now. I know Tillman's not technically a rookie by Major League standards. Mattis still is. These guys are going to find it. There's always struggles with young pitching, and especially when you're on a bad team like the Orioles. These guys will find it, though, so stash them in deeper leagues. Do not completely give up on these two talents. They're too good to give up on.
Aaron Harang, too streaky for you?
A little streaky for mixed leagues, but the Reds, they've proven to be a viable contender in the National League Central. I think Aaron Harang, after his awful start, he had like 3 terrible starts at the beginning of the year, and I said, get rid of this guy, he's garbage. He's actually pitched much better, and then lately he's been kind of erratic again, but you can get some value out of him in deeper leagues. I think when you play the matchups and the Reds are going well, Harang is not a bad option.
I would take Harang on the road. He's one of these type of guys, because if you look at his walk to strikeout now compared to the Daisuke, it's not so much about that he's all over the place, is that he gets lit up very easily. So, you know, he'll miss, you know, over the plate, and he doesn't throw hard enough anymore to miss over the plate. He gets shellacked over there in Cincinnati.
It'll be interesting to see where they slot Aroldis Chapman and Homer Bailey. If Bailey proves healthy, maybe it's a guy like Harang gets dealt.
All right, we will see how that all works out. And we are just getting started here on Fantasy Baseball today. If you have questions, you got to send them on over right on our website. We will answer them in just a minute. Stick around.